Welcome to my At One ePortfolio tour. This is the home page, and this is my bio as well as my welcome video. I hope you enjoy it. This is standard 1, establishing expectations for success. So I use the image of the key to success as a means of indicating how much I feel it's really important that we connect with students in terms of our expectations in the course so that we've made it really clear what it takes to succeed. As you've noticed, I've also taken each of the standards and outlined them according to their bullet points, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, in which case each time you go into a new bullet, you're going to get the reflection, which kind of sets the context for the artifact, and then the artifact itself. So instead of posting the entire artifact, meaning the entire syllabus, I've pulled out the parts of the syllabus that really address that particular standard. Going on to standard number 2, the illustrations once again was kind of a driving force for how I interpreted each standard. I did go to Flickr, learned how to use it. It's not quite as easy as searching Google, but that way I made sure the proper people got the right recognition for it, as you see tagged down here. And that does link right back to that Flickr page where I found the image itself. This one, in terms of content delivery and assignments, was trying to indicate that I really believe that the online environment is really a modification of the on-campus environment. So as much as you can try to maintain that feeling of we're all in this class together, we're a team, we're learning as a team, and even though in this illustration you see the instructors in the center, that's only because the instructor's trying to bring all of the students together in the learning process. The instructor by no means is at the center of learning. It is always going to be the student. Once again, you see how I've bulleted out the points over here, and then going on to community building. This was a hard one, finding a right image to illustrate what I thought community building really is. But I often think that sometimes we do feel like we're wandering aimlessly when we're in an online environment. It is up to the instructor to be a good host, to help people get to know each other, to introduce themselves to each other. And some of the more interesting activities, actually probably the one I think that is my favorite in this area is the welcoming activity. And that's one I learned in my first At One course, the Building Online Communities with Social Media. And it's an icebreaker activity that is essentially a PowerPoint. So I encourage you to jump in and look at that and see what you think of it. But it's essentially students posting an image that somehow represents them and making comments on what they notice they have in common with each other. So that's a really nice activity there. The communication one is, the fish were just too adorable to resist. So the school of fish with the teacher fish, just basically showing that communication is, the computer just becomes a way for people to communicate with each other, but communication once again is quite similar to how it is in an on-campus environment. So as long as the teacher can create tools and activities that bring people together, expectations that set the standard as to how people will communicate with one another, I think that you'll have a very fruitful communication within the course. The ethics are often about weighing doing the right thing versus doing what seems expedient in the moment. So by modeling what is truly ethical to your students, as well as helping them learn what are ethics and how can they comply with the ethical standards in society, it's very important, as well as making sure your students know that their rights are protected under FERPA guidelines. So I encourage you to take a look at that. The accessibility was really important to me when I took the course. At first, I thought it was just about blind and deaf students, but I realized a lot of it is about different learning styles. And I hadn't realized it when I was growing up. I actually had a different learning style but wasn't aware of it until I took the class. So it was very helpful for me to realize that every one of us is unique. We all have our own unique way of learning, and it's important that an environment support everybody's unique ways of learning, whether it be from a disability that's recognized or just maybe a different learning style. So that's very important that that's dealt with. As far as assessments are concerned, it's really important to know that there are so many different types of assessments in terms of just simple quizzing to writing activities and different ways of looking at writing activities. And so I encourage you to look at my one that is appropriate and varied assessments. That's where I started doing a progressive discussion board where we're basically discussing the same topics at different points in the semester. So I did mine on altruism based on the book The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein, and it coincides with my community service learning project where students realize at the end of the class that altruism is definitely possible, and they become enriched by their own experience of learning what it feels like to do volunteer work and to contribute something unique that wasn't there before them. They then get a sense that they're leaving a legacy based on their own efforts. So it's quite wonderful for students to feel that experience of giving. Analytics is also very important, that students understand how to measure their own success. So with that, you'll need data tracking tools. I've provided many screenshots on how I do my data tracking. That's just for just one aspect of the course. I do this kind of detailed work. I have lots of other means of determining how students are doing and how to interact with them based on that, including proactive intervention and coaching with individual students as well as groups of students. The professional development area is really important too at understanding we learn how the students learn based on our peer-to-peer interaction. We are social creatures, so we tend to enjoy social learning. And when we become responsible for having to teach something, we learn so much more in that process. And it's a rich community of educators where we learn so much from each other. So I encourage people to continue to endeavor in this area because professional development never seems to end. And lastly, student engagement. Now this is an illustration that does put the student at the center of learning, and all the different elements that help that student to learn are surrounding it, including doing a course tour video, Canvas tools that can support student learning, and content delivery. And lastly, I'd just like to say thank you for joining me on this tour through my ePortfolio. It's been a wonderful experience, and I know I will learn so much more based on your feedback. Thank you very much.